All right, so let's get started. If everyone can go on mute, this way it won't cut us off from the broadcast. This is our first ever inaugural virtual Zoom tech session today for the Mercedes-Benz Club, the Long Island, New York City section. I'm Sean Aryai. I'm one of the directors. I'm here at Gullwing Motors, where joined with Lou Palumbo and Steve Palumbo, who own and run this great organization. Today, we have a packed agenda that we want to cram into like 35, 40 minutes and leave some time for Q&A. We're going to be talking about corrosion and protecting the undercarriage of your vehicles, and also how to prepare your vehicle when spring rolls around so that you could drive it out safely, and hopefully we can start to see each other at car shows and meetups again.
That would be great. Yeah.
So what we'll do first, we'll go to a vehicle that has been kept very well, and it's a good example of how to exactly when a vehicle gets to a certain age, what it should look like, and then we'll go to a vehicle that wasn't as well maintained, and then we'll talk about what you could do as far as protectants, as far as coatings, before we get into the other sections. So we're going to move over to the first vehicle. And let me flip the camera. Maybe we can tell them, Lou, what.
This is a 1989 Mercedes 560 SL, and it's well maintained and protected. Was garaged for many years, and it's really a well taken care of. The bottom of the car looks almost original, except for little scuffs and bruises. No rust of any sort.
So shall we get under it?
You can look from underneath. I want to show you where typically most of these cars would start rusting on the undercarriage of underneath the wheel wells and the floors. This is where one of the weakness, and also that would spread into the rockers and the jack points. In this case, as you can see, it's very solid, no visible rust. There's a little bit of crack here in the undercarriage protection, the rubberized undercoating, and that's about it on this side, as well on the other. See, pretty solid, no rust. Panels are solid. Everything is good here. The other areas that get rusty is around inside the wheel wells and underneath the bumper support, the reinforcements. This one, as you can see, pretty solid.
Lou, areas that the undercoating is chipped away a little bit, is that a risk there of water seeping behind the
Yes, it can, and that's how it starts. Usually if it's chipped, then it starts to get corroded, as you can see that here. This is mostly from when they put the car on the jack or lift.
So the older undercoatings you have to look out for, because they can actually hold the water as well if it's not maintained, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Well, anything that's exposed to the air and the water, it would be susceptible to any oxidation and rust. But as you can see, the bottom is pretty solid here. The other points are weak on here, as around the support for the suspension, the rear subframe. This one is pretty solid, same as the inside of the wheel well. I mean, I don't know if you can get a good shot of that, but the wheel well is pretty solid there.
Yep.
And underneath the back, the spare tire tub is in good condition. No real rust. There's a little bit in the corner there. I don't know if you can see it underneath the skirt. just
Yeah, on the
starting.
body. Yep.
Yep, that could be scraped down and undercoated and rust proofed with the chemical that would arrest the rust, and then undercoat it, and it should take care of the problem.
So would a car in this condition be a good candidate to get coated?
Yes, a car like this,
because it's right at the point where things are starting to get exposed, right?
Yeah, right now it's solid, but to keep it that way, the weakest points we see are just basically some chips and scrapes on the bumper underneath here. So what you could do with that is to clean it off and then treat it, so we can stop the rust from continuing. And as you can see, this is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Except for a few spots which can easily be taken care of.
Is that muffler an issue, Lou?
The muffler is obviously, the car doesn't get used a lot, so it's collected moisture inside and it's rusting from inside out. It is the original muffler, so
that's amazing.
For 1989.
Yeah, that's amazing that
it's lasted
in the Northeast, right?
Well, no, actually, this car used to be in Florida.
Oh, okay.
So
we'll give it a few.
This car's been around. It's been in Puerto Rico. It's been in New York. It's been in Florida. So we got it from this gentleman that was a businessman, had a place in Puerto Rico, so he used to take it there. Anyway, you see the bottom, it's pretty good.
So this is an example of a car that's been pretty well maintained, right?
Well,
but could still use
but still there's a little rash here and there that could easily be cleaned up and protected for the next 30, 40 years.
Yep. And these cars will last that long, if not longer, right?
Oh yeah, look, we got Mercedes on the road from the first ones up until the modern ones.
Is this the actual original? This is the chassis, right? This is part of the chassis,
yeah, this is
or part of the unibody, is it?
Well, this is what the cowl. This is the tonneau in the center of the car. Here there should be another support that attaches here, but somebody along the lines left it off. We're gonna try to
replace that. Oh, okay, so that's where these two, these four bolts are missing, right?
There's another part of this protection so that it doesn't scrape the pan, but it's
even a bolt that's missing allows for water to seep up, right?
Yes, exactly. But this is not the most vulnerable, because don't forget, it's around where the engine and transmission gets hot, so
it evaporates.
It would dry up.
Yeah.
But areas like here where it doesn't get as much heat, if moisture stays there, that's when it starts to attack. Especially if the undercoating is chipped, then the water can get behind it. And that's what we're trying to do. Now we can go to a car that's not as well taken care of, and we can show you how the rust starts to eat the metal. I got this old off on the left here, and we can take a look at some of it.
So we had to go to a non-Mercedes to show you how bad things can get.
Well, this is the
what year is this vehicle?
This is a 69. As you can see up there in that area, you can see some surface rust.
Yep.
And it's hasn't been taken care of as well. There was undercoating, but in some places it's worn off, and that's where the metal starts to get corrosion.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah, I can see it. Let me see if I can get a better angle of that piece there.
Yeah.
So that the viewers can see what's happening with the metal there.
Again, it's not rusted through, but it will eventually if we don't protect it. This has to be scraped down to take any loose flakes of rust, and then we'll treat it with an undercoating that's oil-based and it has an anti-corrosion in there, and it will stick to it, and will arrest the. Because what happens if you cut off the oxygen to the metal, it will not rust.
And that's a penetrative. It's not just something that sits on top. It actually goes into the rust, right?
Yes. What it does, it mixes with the rust, and then it
Penetrates.
chemically
Yep.
treats it, and then it also cuts off the oxygen to it. So it's.
Is that something you guys do here?
We do. We have several ways of doing it. Most cars get undercoated with rubberized undercoating. When you do with that, as long as the metal is in good condition, you don't need to treat it first. If it's already starting to rust like this one, then we need to spray like a primer that mixes with the rust.
Mm-hmm. That basically prepares the rust to be
well, what
coated?
It does, it actually gets into the rust and it hardens like a rock. And then you can undercoat it over it. You don't have to, but it's a good idea to get the extra protection to seal.
What does something like that cost?
We do it inside all the metal, and then we go inside the rails and the chassis and the doors and stuff like that, so that once it's in there, any water coming into that area would deflect, stay off the metal.
Does it depend on the vehicle? Or?
It depends on the vehicle itself, how the size of the vehicle, how many doors, if it's a station wagon or SUV, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, it can run 1,000 to 2,000, depending on how much preparation it needs.
So the best way is, if someone's interested, they should come down and have you take a look at.
It's always good to look underneath,
yep.
give
the condition,
a good, look at the car, see exactly what it needs, and
yep.
then we can give you an estimate based on the amount of material it's going to take and the
yep.
time to treat it all.
Yep. And then how long is that good for?
Well, it depends how fast we get to the car before it starts to get too deep into the rust. There are certain undercoating that will last, like the ones on the Mercedes. If nobody scrapes it and it stays sealed, it will last indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other materials we can use that if the surface is already starting to rust, then they will mix with the rust. And there are several ones that some will harden like a rock and blend with the steel. And then some other ones that just seal it and protect it and never hardens.
Right.
So it's always pliable. It's always stays soft.
Water repellent.
And it's totally water repellent. Some of them, the oil-based ones, work well because when it flows easier and it's easier to apply into difficult areas to get into.
Right. So when like when you have two pieces of metal touching, if you put a drop of water, it gets sucked into the joint, right, where they're connecting. It's the same concept then with the oil-based coatings, that when you spray it, it goes into those areas. It actually pulls
water
itself.
And oil doesn't mix.
Yeah, so it pulls itself.
Yeah. Take it out.
Got it. Got it.
And once the oil is in there, it drives the water out.
Yeah. So it's better to have oil in there than salty water, right?
Anything but salty water.
Should we take a look at the front side of this? Or?
Yes. This is pretty much what it looks like across.
Oh, look, there's some surface rust there.
It isn't horrible, but it's the start of, where, rust is forming. You take care of that with this anti-corrosion oil base. It also, once you pressure wash, you get all the loose dirt off, and you can apply the material. It will give you good protection. And again, we drill holes into the rockers, so we feed a spraying hose in there, and then we
spray the inside.
Got it. I've seen where people spray everything with that, drive shaft and exhaust and all. We try to mask everything so it doesn't smell and burn off
for the next month, right?
Exactly. The same thing here. you know, it's pretty well covered, but in some areas that do need attention. For example, here, this panel should actually be replaced, but they're not available, so you have to make the pieces up.
So what would you have to like take this apart, you know, get the surface stuff off and then replace it and
Well,
put
you
it
have
back?
to cut a section out and weld in new steel, and then you know, form it to its shape. We do that. We do custom work. If the panels are not available, we can make it up, especially to patch it in. We do that. So this is where, you know, the bottom of the chassis of the car is in good condition, or you protect it well. Like
what's going
this
on
here
there?
is pretty good. This is pretty solid.
So is this
It's
just
got a
surface
little-
rust? Is that something?
It's surface rust. It would have to be taken care of. One of the issues is here, there's a double wall.
If you let that go, though, that could eventually start to open up. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. It will rust through if you don't take care of it. Of course.
Yeah. And those are those joints we're talking about, right? Where
Well, we're going to spray it on the outside, but sometimes you have to go on the inside as well. So, you know, you have to, if you want to really take good care of it, you'd have to rip the carpets out. And yeah, this
was that repaired at some point, or
this was a repair made by, let's say, a wannabe body man. It has been repaired, but not the way it should be. The rockers were patched up and not replaced, and they weren't really done to any factory specs. This is a jack point, which is really bottom of the floor. It's kind of collapsed.
I see this is
It's
kind of crushed over here, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a homemade repair, not the kind of work we do here. But it's a process that takes time and a lot of work to get it done. And people have to be able to invest into the car to get it done right. Of course, there's a lot of people that want to do things themselves, which just pushes it off. And if it, you know, it's almost like not doing anything. It just makes you happy that you did it. If it wasn't done right, it's not going to last.
This is
Well, this panel should actually be replaced. And like I said, if sometimes these panels are not available, they do make in most cases, like a patch repair.
yeah. So this is not something you could save with undercoating. It's
The only thing you're cool with that oil-based undercoating process,
just to stop it, right?
it would slow it down.
Right,
It would
right.
never stop.
It'll slow it
because
down.
it's
Got
pretty far gone. So to get it in there, maybe it'll slow it down so it won't rust as fast. Let's say, and that's pretty much what it is with this one.
Should we switch gears and go to the talk
Sure.
about getting a car ready for the spring?
Why not?
Awesome. Let's head over to this really awesome colored SL over here. This is a beauty. What year is this, Lou?
This is a 1979. It's a Mercedes 280 SL 107 chassis. The European version. It has a 6-cylinder M110 engine in it, and it was imported by the owner. They've had it since day one, and they love it.
So with these, it's an interesting vehicle because they're treated differently, right? For the European models versus the US models, right? And some
Well,
of the like the bumpers are different,
Some
right?
of the specs are different. This one,
I love the headlights, by the way.
these are the European lenses on the
Yeah.
lights, and the bumpers. So this is a European bumper, so it's a small chrome one versus the ones
The
that
big 5 mile an
the
hour.
American ones. Yeah, they had the the big rubber one with the chrome shell, and then it would have the absorbers in there for the to meet the requirements for the 5-mile-an-hour accident
requirements, right?
in that time. That's what the government required. Again, for springtime, when the weather gets ready to get the cars out of the garage, you want to do certain basic things to take care of, make sure that the car is in good shape. Before you put it away, you should pump up your tires and fill them up with 40 pounds of pressure, and put in some gas treatment in there, like stabilizer, fuel stabilizer in there, so that it doesn't either absorb water or from sitting around. Then in the spring, when you get it out, obviously you want to go to the car. You want to make sure everything's good. You want to check your belts, your antifreeze. You want to make sure that the filters are good. Change the oil.
How would our members check their belts? What's the best way to check it? Is it to physically inspect it?
This is obviously it's in great shape. This belt, it's like new, but you can look for cracks. If I get a little flashlight, you can see.
Oh, and in the rubber.
Mm-hmm. Give me a second to. You see the belts. You look at the inside of the belt for cracks.
Okay.
This one hasn't got any because it's a pretty relatively new belt. You also want to check the fan and the clutch. This one feels good.
And you're checking by moving it?
Well, you rotate it. If it's really stiff where you can't turn it, there may be an issue with it seized up. If it's real soft, that means it's not working and it won't draw air.
Got it.
Then you want to check your hoses. The radiator hoses, the heater hoses. You usually do a flush, flush the antifreeze.
What are some telltale signs of hoses that need repair?
Well, any kind of a hose that could be either blistering or bubbling up, cracking, for example, if it's starting to show.
How about like showing some type of,
if it shows any kind of oxidation or calcification. That's it, calcification of the antifreeze, it would be a sign of a leak, even though it could be a small leak.
How about the fluid?
Could also damage the rubber.
How about the fluid in the antifreeze? In the spring, does it need to be flushed, or?
Depends on how long before it was done. Usually, if somebody does it, they either put a sticker on to show the date it was done, or if the customer keeps records, he would have an invoice of when with the antifreeze should be flushed every 2 to 3 years. Some antifreeze on the newer cars last as long as 5 years because it's much better.
So
it's pretty important to flush them and replace them because especially in the older cars, if you get rid of whatever contaminants are in the system, you get rid of the possibility of any corrosion or because gaskets and aluminum will oxidize and corrode even on the inside. So it's a good idea to flush them.
Question about storage. There's a lot of our members have, because of COVID, they haven't gone out. They're not, the cars are just sitting there. And, some of them close to a year, they haven't been touched, right? Is there certain...
Unfortunately, it does happen. And in this climate, especially because of the COVID, what I recommend is to take the car at least once or twice a month for a ride, get it nice and hot. So warm it up and then take it for a drive for at least 30 minutes to get everything nice and lubricated and hot.
A few people are concerned about the gas because the gas has been sitting there for a year.
Yeah.
When should they start to get worried?
Well, fuel stabilizer would help if you put it in the tank.
Can they put it in after the fact?
Sure.
Okay. So if the car's been sitting for 6 months, if you add the stabilizer, it'll help.
It will help. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could burn it out, you use it up, but if you're not going anywhere to burn up a tank full of fuel, the chances of if you fill up your tank before you put the car away, it's also a good way to prevent any moisture buildup, because the tank wouldn't be susceptible to hot and cold.
Right.
It will stay pretty stable because it's full, and
it also drives out moisture, right, from the gasoline, so that you don't get as much corrosion.
If
right?
you put a stabilizer in there, yes,
Okay.
it not only treats it, but also gives you an anti gel.
Right.
And
we talked about stable. How about other additives like Miracle, Marvel Mystery Oil?
Marvel Mystery Oil or Red Line makes a good product.
Yep.
For the fuel
Cleaner.
treatment.
Yep.
If you put it in the tank, on gas engines and diesel engines, it helps lubricate the inside, especially with these cars with the fuel injection. They have the surfaces that and valves and check valves and so on to keep them free and lubricated. It's a good idea to put some in the tank. So when you run the car,
is that something you keep in stock here? That if our members,
we have. We carry, like I said, the Red Line, Lubra Molly, and brands. Good quality stuff. It works well, and it helps keep the car running in good condition.
Awesome. How about tires? Should we
tires,
let's talk about tires.
Like I said, if you put the car away and you pump up the tires, obviously you want to bring them to its regular, normal pressure. When you use the car, is going to get a bumpy ride.
So if it's sitting on one spot, you recommend moving it so that you don't get any flat spots.
That's a good idea to do that. Like I said, if you use it once or twice a month, you change the position of the tire. It won't be in the same spot for too long. Now, of course, some people have more than one car, so they don't have a chance to take every car for a ride, but it's a good idea to do so. Even if you have to get your kids to drive.
Yep. So Lou, I have a 2014, and it still has its original tires, and it has only 4,000 miles. But it's getting to like 7 years where it's a high performance AMG model. Should I start thinking about replacing those tires, even though there's hardly any wear on them?
Well, that's the I would say you don't need to replace the tires. But if you intend to use it or track it, definitely put tires on.
Okay.
Because the cars, the tires over time will get dry. Not only they get hard, the rubber loses its elasticity, but also they could dry rot.
So the mileage is not a good indicator of the quality of the tire a lot of times, right?
No, actually, the date on the tire to tell you a lot. The condition of the tire tells you a lot as well. If there's no visible signs of a crack, deterioration, if the tire's performing well, it's not giving you like a vibration or at any speed, and it feels round when you drive it car without any issues, I would say if you keep it below certain speeds, you're probably okay to use it locally. But if you're going to go on a long trip, I would strongly recommend you replace the tires because, again, they're not going to warn you. The only thing you can go by is the actual date of the tire. And to play it safe, you need to get rid of them when they're 7, 8, 10 years old. Even though they look brand new, they're fine to hold air, but I wouldn't try it at high speeds.
Some of the older models, some of the members have, they came out when there were like radial ply tires, right? And they were bias tread before that, right?
Exactly.
So it's okay to put the modern tires on those vehicles, or
Yes, there's a conversion chart to match this overall diameter of the tire, so it doesn't throw off your speedometer uh, readings. But in most cases, it's enough sizes in between that you can get pretty close to the original size of the tire. And if it does change it a little bit, sometimes they're a little wider, a little taller. It's not going to make a huge difference.
Got it.
Unless, you know.
Well, some people like
the
the
radar
yeah.
is waiting for you.
Some people like that original bias look. The bias.
Well, actually, if you're restoring a car, if you're going to go all original, you want to go with that. And that's if it's a show car, you're not worried about it because most people just drive it to the show and back, or even trailer it in some cases. So it all depends on what you have and how much you've invested in the car and what the purpose of it. If it's a driver and you enjoy driving it, I would say a good safe tire is all you need. You don't have to go with the original to stay, keep it all original. But if you want to do that, it still can be used. They're just not as good as the modern tires.
Got it.
The bias-plied tires are not as good as the radial tires. They don't grip as well, and they don't give you as good a ride. They're much stiffer.
Got it.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've gone through a vehicle that was well kept, a vehicle that needs some TLC and some ways to protect it going forward. We showed you this vehicle that how we would get it ready to get it back on the road. At this point, what we can do is open up the Zoom session for Q&A, and we can take some questions. Let me flip this camera around. All right, and please come off of mute to ask your questions.
Yeah,
Louis,
I
just wanted to ask you that.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you the year of that car. We sort of missed it when you the SL that you just looked at. What year is that?
The European one?
Yes.
It's a 79.
Very good.
And if you want to take a closer look at anything, I'll be glad to take the camera over. Because I think the European models have a different interior, right?
Yeah, this one has a cloth interior, which is pretty typical for European cars. It's really...
Yeah, if you could give us a quick look, that would be great.
Sure. Let me flip the camera around. Yep, there's that that pattern. You can see the cloth.
So
And even on
on,
yep, and on the armrest as well.
Yeah, this car is actually in very good condition.
Yeah, on the doors as well.
For the age
and I have to tell you, cars that growing up in the 80s, cars that had like cloth interior would definitely hold me in my seat a lot better than I don't slide around. And also in the hot New York summer days when the sun's beating down, the cloth seats are definitely much easier to sit on, especially if you're wearing shorts, right, Lou?
in the summer, exactly. If you sit on a hot seat with vinyl, you'll burn your legs. If it's out in the sun.
So this one,
cloth seat. Yeah, this one is here.
This one needs a little bit TLC.
We're gonna redo the interior in this one.
Are you gonna keep the original cloth?
We're gonna keep
awesome.
Everything's original. We
Awesome.
bought all the goods already. This car is gonna get a full interior redo, and we're gonna also do some suspension work. If the car is in great shape and has 100,000 miles,
yeah,
we never know it.
I know. I just love the European bumpers. It just is so much more streamlined. It just
yeah, I think the engine is more powerful as well. Even
that's great.
For the European specs, they usually have like 20 horsepower more than the American versions because of the emission. But this car was converted, so it has the catalytic converter.
Oh, it does.
It does.
Just for the record, I'm gonna let everybody know that we got 12 participants. That's very good.
Oh,
Awesome.
good.
Yeah,
Anybody-
so please come off mute if you have any questions about corrosion protection, undercoating, getting your car ready for spring.
If anybody has any questions, even if it's not related to this, some other issue that your car may be giving you, we'd be happy to talk about it and see if we can shine some light on what the problem might could be.
And just remember, you need to come off of mute if you want to ask a question.
Louis,
Yes, sir.
it's
Yes.
Dominic. How you doing, bro? Listen, quick question. So if a brand new car from the factory, 2021, do they already have undercoating, or you can go over what they have, or you should wait for it to be a year or 2 years old? What's your situation? What's your recommendation?
Well, it sounds to me like when you buy a brand new car, and you have in mind what you intend to do. If you're going to drive it for 5 years and then sell it, or if you intend to keep it for a long time. Most
Keep
people
it for a
do
long
wanna keep
time.
it for- So what you do then, you bring it to a place like myself, my shop. We will put it up and see if there's anything that can be improved from what the factory did. Don't forget, the new cars, they're well protected underneath. And with some manufacturers and some other ones, they're skimping on the undercoating. So if you, like I said, it's a good idea to inspect. If you have very good protection, there's no reason to do anything other than maybe inside the chassis rails, inside the doors, places that you don't get with the spray gun on the outside. You want to go on the inside and treat it. So if over time you have protection, it will, deter any rust from forming.
But it doesn't hurt, I think.
Thank you.
Even if it's a
Thank
newer
you.
vehicle, to get inside those cracks. And
Oh,
crevices,
absolutely. Yeah,
right? Because
well, that's.
you get that stuff being in.
Yeah, of course. It's always, like I said, the first thing you got to do is inspect it. And if there's room for improvement, you do it. If it's a waste of time and money, there's
Especially
no sense.
if you're going to keep the car for a
Well,
long
that's
time.
it.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
I have a feeling I know what car Dominic's talking about.
Yeah,
I think we do.
Yeah, well,
I would recommend it, Dominic.
yeah, well, I don't know if I'm
If I
starting to
was
drill
you, I would.
into rocker moldings to put stuff into it, but whatever. We'll talk
You know,
about that.
because we do so much to protect the outside, right? We put the film on the vehicles, right? We put the ceramic coatings, but we don't. A lot of times we don't think about the part that's being exposed to the elements, right? Underneath, that's being bombarded with like rocks from the highway and stuff. So
yeah, the undercarriage is like everything else. The foundation is very important. If that stays strong, the rest of the car will stay well, and keep it for a long time without any rust.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll look into that. Thank you.
We'll have to look underneath it, Dominic. Most likely that car won't need anything. Maybe inside the doors and the chassis rails, because the factory doesn't usually do that. Okay,
Thank
but
you, Lou.
I wouldn't expect the bottom of the car needed anything now.
Thank you, Lou.
The only other thing I can think of that could be important, if your car has been in a fender bender, sometimes, even though it's well undercoated from the factory, after a collision, you have certain points that are either kinked, folded, and the undercoating can crack in certain areas. So what you need to do at that point, then retreat it after the repair, so that you go back and re-protect all the metal and the joints and all the seams as it was from the factory.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think what
It's
you're talking about, Dominic, is you're going to put in running boards or something like that onto the car that aren't factory. Is that what you're thinking of?
No, I'm not touching the car.
Oh, okay. I just thought maybe you. Okay. No. All right. Okay.
Some cars come with the running boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, the truck I'm getting comes with that, I think. Right, Sean? Sean knows
Yeah,
better than
it
me
does.
with truck.
It does. The all the G wagons, both the AMG and the non-AMG ones come with the running boards. The 500 4x4, that was the lifted one,
Right.
actually
Mhm.
comes with the amp ones because it's so high. It needs to actually drop down the running board
motorized,
so you could get in. Someone like me, I can't get into it without that step.
No, it's a good idea to have it because,
In
Sean,
October,
I'm into
in
it.
October, the new 4x4 square will be out on the new G wagons.
Sean, Lou,
Yes.
I have a video I can send you guys that you might want to post or review. It's about a Mercedes inspection of my car. And it's also a very telling story about things to look at in older cars. The obvious ones are, oh, you see a fluid leak or a stain, but it's the analysis of where it came from, how serious it is. So if you give me a phone number, I think we did this last time.
Yeah, you have, I don't know if you still have my number, but what we're doing is we're going to create a video channel where we can post not only these tech sessions, but also other videos that are relevant to our members. If it's something that's worthwhile to put up there, we'll post it up there so everyone can see it.
All right. Is it a 703 number?
It's 516-578-7478. So anyone watching this is going to have my number now.
Yes, 516.
Yeah, right.
Right.
578-7478.
Okay, great.
And
All right, everybody,
I'll
forget that.
text you back my email. So if you have a file or a location, I could grab it from there as well.
Right. I have another Sean in my phone with this other number. It's interesting. Okay.
That's my evil twin.
Your evil twin.
I'm the good one.
Thanks for the warning.
So any other questions about spring guising your vehicle or undercoating and corrosion protection?
Yeah, I have a question. My name
Yes,
is
please go ahead.
Chuck Loving, and I'm a new member.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have two Mercedes. I have a 85 380 SE and then a 2006 CLS 500. The 380 SE is down in Palm Beach, Florida, and I've got it in a store it, and it's been in there for 2 years. It's on a trickle charger, and I put stable in it. I'd like to bring it up north so I could use it to the New York area. Do you recommend that I take it somewhere and get the gas drained since it's been 2 years with the stable? And then any tips on shipping it up to your place?
Well, I would suggest that you can have it looked at to see if it needs to be, the fuel can be checked to see if it's stale. And if it's burning, if it has an odor, then I would definitely strongly recommend flushing the tank and replacing the fuel. If it looks like it's going to be okay because the stabilizer, may have done the job and keep it going, you could probably burn the fuel out.
Or they can ship them to you directly. Right?
Yeah. As far as shipping, we do have Flycar that is a company that does transporting enclosed and also on a carrier. So I would suggest you give them a call. I don't have the number.
Yeah, they're
handy.
actually on our website. There's a link to Flycar. They're one of our partners and sponsors for our Great Marks events, and a wonderful company to work with. If you want to, the number I said before, if you want to call me on that, I can give you their contact information as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And my email, let me give everyone my email. It's SEAN
at
ARYAI.com. So that's my first name at my last name.com.
Now, are you located out on Long Island?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
We're in Mineola.
Mineola. Oh, yeah, sure.
So Lou's shop here is what, 100 Windsor Avenue?
Yes, that's it. 100 Windsor Avenue, Mineola, New York. 11501 is the zip. We're listed.
Okay, great.
Great.
You know,
great.
I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I have a real good friend out there named Joe Alexander. Have you ever heard of him? He does a lot of, he was a classmate of mine, and he was head of the Midwest section of the Mercedes-Benz Club.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's
Oliver, haven't we run across that name before?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I do have for you the number of Plycar if you want to have it. I have it.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Sure.
This is the shipping company, right?
Yeah, the shipping company. They're one of our sponsors at our big show, Great Marks. The guy's name over there that I know best is Jeff Haney. His number is 631.
Okay.
566.
Okay.
7156.
And then how do you spell Plycar?
Plycar.
Okay.
Yeah. And let them know you're a member of the club.
Yep.
They'll give you a
Yeah, they'll probably they might give you a break on that too.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Just to let you know, also Lou has his website, and there's a link to it from the club's website on our main page, and there's a sponsor page with a couple of other facilities on. With Lou is definitely on there. He's been, I think, our longest member, longest sponsor in the club.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We've been a member for many, many years.
Okay.
But great question, Chuck, and welcome to the club.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Enjoy
we
this.
hope to see it in another event. I hope in person as
Hopefully,
opposed to virtual.
The driving event, we can get together.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? We still have a few more minutes.
All right, as far as the winter is, up here in the Northeast, we've been having a really ugly winter. And we've been, well, most of us do drive every now and then, and the road is covered with salt. Do you have any suggestions on how to reduce our likelihood of having issues and keep that chassis, the bottom part in particular?
Besides not driving?
Besides not driving, obviously.
Well, honestly, you use the vehicle and on the roads, and then you need to somehow get it washed
Right,
on the bottom as well as on the top.
right.
And sometimes you can run it through a car wash that has those
Under chassis spray.
Right.
those jets
call-
that spray underneath the car as well as the top,
Right.
and run a couple of times, and then that will definitely give you some
It
you know,
washes the salt
rinse.
off, right?
the rinsing of the salt away, and that's all pretty much you can do unless you have access to a lift and then put it up and spray this oil-based rust inhibitor protection that you can put on. That will definitely disperse any water that's left onto the car.
I think that car wash thing is called a chassis bath. That's
Chassis bath or undercarriage bath. They got different names for it. But
Right.
here's the rub with that, right? It's using pressurized water, blasting water into your chassis, right? And
Right.
under your car. And we all know water and metal are not good. So if it's not well protected,
Right.
you're actually putting moisture in places that sometimes moisture wouldn't normally get to. So I think the best way to do it is to do the protection Lou's talking about in the fall, before the salt's on the road, and then you could drive over the salt, and the oil is already in those cracks and crevices, so there's nowhere for the salt to seep into. And then when you do the chassis bath, it's not, it flushes off the salt, but that base layer of oil is still there. And then the following year, you could put just a touch-up layer on top of it to keep that protection up to par.
Yes, it's basically how much, you care about the car and how well you want to take care of and maintain it. Of course, it's a good practice, but everybody's busy, so you're not going to do it. So you got to have somebody do it for you.
Right. I was just even thinking about what Dom was talking about. He's got a brand new car, and I know that you're very tempted to go in snow and something like that. So it would make sense for him to do that kind of a thing in the fall. And that way he wouldn't have to worry about the bottom. Or the chassis on the car.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know he wants to keep it a long time. That's what he said. So.
That's exactly.
So you could do that for him. That's something you could do for him,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, that's
Any other questions?
We just have an engine we redid over here. This is a BMW motor that we just rebuilt. We're gonna install it next week. And it's going into a 550.
It's a big engine.
Oh yeah, it's an 8.
8-cylinder.
Yeah.
It's 6-speed stick shift.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna have to leave, and I'll send the video over.
All right.
Just before you leave, I just want to mention that I wanted to, let you know that I've been in touch with several of our sponsors and tried to arrange for cars and coffee, but at this particular point, nobody's willing to commit to any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
we have to wait.
We'll have tech sessions, right, Oliver?
Yeah, we might have to go virtual, and I don't think we can do virtual cars and coffee. I don't think we want to go there.
Maybe everyone could join us from their garages. And we give everyone like 5 minutes to talk about the car.
Well, that'd be something different. We could do that. That could be something, but it doesn't look good. I was talking to Will. I've talked to him twice, over Motor Car Classic. He's not comfortable with that at all. At a particular point, and it's an insurance issue. And I've also been in touch with Classic Car Showcase over there in Glen Cove, and Dave is not at all happy about. He'd love to do it, but he can't do it. Again, there are all kinds of COVID issues at this point. So I'm hoping that we can do it in the second half of the year. I know we had hoped to do it in the first half, but it doesn't look like we'll be able to do that. So.
All right.
Okay.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Stay safe.
Appreciate it.
I have one quick question, Lou. What's the name of your shop?
Oh.
It's Gullwing Motors Incorporated.
Okay.
And give him your phone number, Lou. I know it by heart, but go ahead, you do.
516-742-3320.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we are right at 11 o'clock, and I want to thank everyone that joined for our first Zoom session. Hope it was informative, and we will try to get more of these on the calendar, talk about different subjects, and it's great to get your participation in it as well. And to the new members, welcome to the club, and we look forward to seeing you in person soon. So.
And one last comment, Lou, I want to thank you and Gullwing Motors, and in particular, I want to thank Sean, who's not part of Gullwing Motors, but I want to thank him for making all of this possible. Without that technology at this particular point, we couldn't do anything like that. So thank you very much, Sean. Lou, thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
Everybody stay well, stay healthy.
Stay well.
Okay.
Thank you
very much, Lou.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Good to
much.
see you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thank
Sean.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Good to see everybody.